Hello, guys, and welcome to our second podcast on this YouTube channel, FootyPod. So today we're going to talk about the general football that's happened this week, and be tuned for our Premier League predictions that are going to come out on Friday as well. So please subscribe, like the video, and share it with others.
Okay, so our first section that we're going to be looking at is the Premier League. Now, does anyone have any ideas on who's going to go for those Champions League spots? Because there's going to be a lot of competition with like Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, Leicester, Man United all fighting for those spots. Daniel?
Well, obviously, like you said, it's going to be so tight, but I think the only team that's guaranteed is Man City at the moment. Even Man United in second, I just don't think, if they suddenly have a bad run of form, they could literally drop down to like seventh, which sounds bad, but I mean, it's just so tight at the moment. But the thing is, last week we said West Ham, we don't think we'll get there, but even though they lost to Man United, I just think it's so close. It could honestly be anyone. And like normally there's maybe 5 or 6 teams in it. This year there's like 8 teams that could get top 4. Yeah, Alex.
I think another big contender that isn't mentioned much is Everton, because even though they lost to Burnley, they still have a game in hand and they're only 5 points behind Chelsea in fourth. I think Chelsea are on a magnificent run of form and Tuchel's done really well with them, but you do wonder how long they can go with it. Leicester have been dipping in form a bit, so, those clubs like Everton, Spurs and Liverpool will be looking to capitalise on it, but Liverpool themselves aren't in the best run of form. Anyone else have anything to say about that? Bihan?
Do you know what? I mean, because as you said, it's so tight at the top. I just feel like West Ham and Everton will not make it, because I think Chelsea, they are obviously on a really good run of form, even though they've played an extra game. But I just think that the quality of Chelsea the quality of players they have, I think that could just edge them to that Champions League spot. Like the other contenders, West Ham and Everton, they've been really good this season, and David Moyes and Carlo Ancelotti deserve a lot of credit. But I just think that West Ham and Everton, they just don't have the extra quality to like be in the Champions League. And the other Liverpool and Tottenham, they have had really bad run of form. Like Tottenham lost the North London derby yesterday, so I don't think if Jose Mourinho goes on a great run of form, then I think that Tottenham could make it, but I just don't think that West Ham and Everton could make it this time. Yes, Harry?
I think looking at the bottom of the table, we see obviously Sheffield United and West Brom are quite down, but it's a very tight between Fulham, Newcastle, Brighton. They all seem to be fighting to stay up. Fulham currently are in the spot, but they are only 2 points behind Newcastle and 3 points behind Brighton. Both Brighton and Newcastle have a game in hand, but neither team is on great form at the moment, so it could swing in either direction. What do you think is going to happen, Alex?
I'm not really sure. I think Fulham aren't playing too badly at the moment. I think Newcastle are probably the favourites to go down in that 18th spot. Okay, I think it's time that we move on to our Ligue 1 section. And Lille, since last week, have managed to retain the first spot after PSG were shocked by Nantes. Does anyone else have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I watched the highlights of that game, and I mean, like, if Lille had won, I don't think they won. I think they drew with Monaco, which is a tough game. So, I mean, they did quite well to draw, to be honest. But if they'd won, they would have gone 5 points clear at the top. And, that's not something you say in Liga. If a team's at the top, they're normally by a point with maybe a game in hand, and PSG eventually just dominate. But, I mean, so I think PSG, I don't know if they'll win it this year. They're being really inconsistent. They've lost a lot of games. And I think possibly Lille could actually win it this year, which is a surprise. Yeah, Vihan?
I think that PSG can still pull the title back, but with Neymar returning from injury, and I think that's a huge factor in PSG winning Liga. And yesterday in the Nantes game, I think Di Maria and Marquinhos they got substituted because their house got robbed or something. So our thoughts and prayers go out to their family. But I think that PSG without Di Maria and Marquinhos, they're not the same. They lose that little bit of quality. I think Marquinhos is a really big figure in the back, so I just feel like PSG can still win the league, but they'll win it by a narrow margin. Go on, Alex.
So I just want to take a moment if we look down to the bottom of the table. And last week, Daniel said that he thought Dijon would manage to get into 18th by the end of the season into the relegation playoffs and manage to win and stay in Ligue 1. Unfortunately, that's not looking like it's going to happen at the moment, as this week they lost again to Bordeaux. That's something like their 6th loss in a row, and it's really not looking good for them. Daniel, do you want to redeem yourself by giving an explanation?
I still reckon, they might be in with it. Maybe. Let's just see this. Yeah, okay, maybe not. We'll skip past that. I never said that. No, they're going down. I'm sorry. Miles behind.
Okay, I think it's now time that we move over to our Bundesliga section, which is Daniel. Okay, Daniel, what are your thoughts on the Bundesliga? Because it is looking really tight at the top, with Bayern Munich, RB Leipzig all challenging for the title. A lot of other clubs as well, like Wolfsburg actually in 3rd and Frankfurt. Not that they look like they could challenge for the title, but they have a chance maybe to stay in top 4. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, like I said last week, I think it's between Leipzig and Bayern. I think Leipzig 6. What has happened there? Oh, Leipzig drew, so now they're actually 4 points behind. I think, despite how close it has been, I think Bayern are they're gonna run away with it, or not run away with it, but I think they'll end up winning it by about 8 points or so. I just think the other teams aren't consistent enough, and I'm not saying Leipzig aren't consistent, but compared to Bayern, who they're so good. I mean, they won the Champions League, so the Bundesliga, they should be winning it. But I think even how close Leipzig are right now, I think eventually in a few games' time, maybe Bayern will just about pull ahead by quite a few points. But like you're saying, the race for the top 4 is definitely on. Dortmund have picked up a little bit of form and back up into 5th, only 2 points behind Eintracht Frankfurt in 4th. Wolfsburg are actually doing really well. They're not a bad club, but not brilliant compared to some of the other teams. But I think there's, like I said last week, there's a lot of teams that could get there, even down to 9th really could get there. But I'd say mostly down to 8th possibly could actually get top 4. And also, actually, just quickly before we move on to someone else, I just want to look at Borussia Mönchengladbach. Their recent run of form, they drew and then they've lost their last 4 games. I don't know where that's come from. They were playing very well before. Yeah, go on, Harry.
I think we should look at the top goal scorers list for the Bundesliga. If you see, Robert Lewandowski has nearly double the amount of joint second place, Andre Silva and Erling Haaland. He has 32 goals. And considering Bayern Munich have only played 25 games this season, that's definitely more than one goal a game. Considering he probably hasn't even played every single game this season. Alex?
Moving down to the bottom of the table, we laughed at them last week and we're going to laugh at them again. It's Schalke. Yay, Schalke. They got spanked 5-0 by Wolfsburg away from home. And that isn't what you love to see. Their past games, they've lost, drew, lost, drew, lost, drew, lost, and the list goes on and on and on. And you really can't see them pulling any kind of relegation fight back at this point. I mean, they've got 10 points out of 25 games, which is just hilariously bad. Vihan, what do you have to say about that?
I'm sorry, Schalke fans, but genuinely, your club is horrible. They are playing terribly. They are losing their best players, and I think Schalke are pretty much done in the Bundesliga. I think if they manage to keep hold of the American Matthew Hope, however you say his name, I think then if they're definitely going into the Bundesliga too. But if they keep hold of him, I think they can move back up. But it's just not looking likely anymore because Schalke are just horrible.
I think now is a great time to move on to La Liga now. And if you look at Atletico Madrid, they're dropping points again to Getafe, which is really quite annoying for them because they started off the season so well with all their strikers in perfect form. And now they're kind of dropping off. Real Madrid winning again, and I think Barcelona winning again. Does anyone else have anything to say about that? Bihan?
Do you know what? I thought that Atletico were nailed on to win the title, but then the run of form they've been in recently, they've drawn they've won only 2 of their last 5 games, and I think that even though they've been in a rough patch of form, I still think the quality they have in the squad, and like Diego Simeone, he's like a defensive coach. I think they'll defend the lead at the top for now, but next season I think it's not gonna be them. So I think that Atletico, they will win the title this year still because of the quality that they've got in the squad. The likes of Luis Suarez, Marcus Llorente, who's been quite an unsung hero as well. So I just think it's gonna be Atletico this year. Go on, Alex.
I think we should start a Luis Suarez appreciation club. I mean, I don't like cheaters, but his form in La Liga this season. I mean, what was Ronald Koeman doing? I mean, Barca don't even have a striker anymore, and you're just binning off like someone who has such a good legacy at the club and who's still like nearly in his prime to Atletico Madrid, one of your biggest rivals, on a free. Why would you do that? Harry, what do you think about that?
I mean, I've already said this once, but I think we should also look at the top goal scorers list again. It's very, very close. It's Messi at the top with 19, then Suarez, as we've mentioned, in red-hot form on 18, then Moreno, Benzema, and Youssef En-Nesyri on 15, 15, and 14. I think any of those players can win the Golden Boot, but who do you think actually will? Leon?
Do you know what? We should appreciate Youssef En-Nesyri's form more. He's been absolutely outstanding for Sevilla this season, and his goals have pretty much carried them in some matches. So I think if he like goes on a really, really good run of form, I think it could be him. He has the potential to do so, but I still think Lionel Messi, even though he wants to leave Barcelona, I think it's still gonna be him because he's just the undisputed GOAT at this point. Go on, Alex.
Okay, I think now's a good time to move on to our Serie A section, and it's looking quite close at the top here. Bihan, what do you think about that?
It is, but I think the Inter Milan now then that they've gone on such a good run of form, and the teams around them, they've been pretty inconsistent. AC Milan having lost to Napoli a 1-0 last night, and Juventus, even though they won, they're still 10 points behind Inter. So I just think that Inter are running away with the title this season. Anyone else have any thoughts? Daniel?
Yeah, I think for the first time in a while, Juventus won't actually win it. And to be honest, even when Juve don't win it, they're still normally, really pushing for it, and another team just wins it. But I mean, Juve are only actually 5 points in the top four. So if they lose a few games and Napoli win a few, Juventus might not even get top four. I mean, Atalanta, yes, they're probably more likely to drop out of the top four, but I mean, it's very tight in the top four. I think the only teams that are guaranteed really are Inter Milan and AC Milan. Yeah, Harry?
I just want to look at Inter Milan's form. They've won their last 8 consecutive games and are unbeaten in their last 11. That's an almost unrivaled run of form this year. And since Man City lost their 21-game win streak, it is currently the longest win streak in the top 5 leagues, I think. Does anyone have anything to say about that, Beyond?
Yeah, they are, I think. But like the form they have been in it's because of their 2 strikers, Lautaro Martinez and Romelu Lukaku. I feel like Romelu Lukaku is just so good. But even Lautaro Martinez doesn't get talked about enough these days. Yeah, even though he's been in quite good form. So, what do you guys think about the dynamic duo of Inter Milan? Alex?
Yeah, I really agree with you there. I mean, they've got some really good strikers, but I think to win the Serie A, there are lots of quality teams. I think you need to have a balanced defense as well. Like they've got, Skriniar and some other good defenders. They've got Handanovic in goal, who's a really strong keeper. I think they've got some strong midfielders as well. So, you really need a balanced team. But I do agree that their strikers have been really influential so far this season. So now I think it's a good time to move on to our UCL section. And Paris Saint-Germain taking down Barcelona on aggregate. Does anyone else have anything to say about that? I mean, I think we all saw it coming. Daniel?
Yeah, I think after the first leg, Barca would have had to do something amazing, like something from 2015 Champions League when they had MSN to have pulled that back. And I think, a lot of people have been saying it, but I agree with it. I think Messi and Haaland have taken over from Messi and Ronaldo. I mean, neither of them are in the Champions League anymore. They've both been knocked out. And I just think that they're just getting a bit old now, aren't they? Especially the Porto game. How have Juventus lost to Porto? I mean, Vian, what do you have to say about
that? That game was absolutely insane and just showed what Champions League could be capable of. Well, Juventus, I mean, they are out once again. And do you guys think that the Project Ronaldo has failed, kind of? Because in 3 consecutive years, they've crashed out against Ajax, Lyon, and most recently Porto. And Ronaldo has not performed necessarily in these games. So has that project failed? Harry?
Really, I think the Project Ronaldo has failed, and this loss against Porto just shows that. Because realistically, Porto are a good team, but Juventus and Cristiano Ronaldo should not be losing to this. Cristiano Ronaldo is a 5-time Ballon d'Or winner. He's won Golden Boots in so many countries, and for the last 3 years, he's lost to teams that aren't really like massive. Ajax, Lyon, and Porto. None of them are big teams. I mean, congratulations to Porto for making it through past Juventus. Alex, do you have anything to say?
I mean, I partly disagree with you because I do think that the whole point of Project Ronaldo was to win the Champions League. But to be honest, so they bought him, but he's been really influential in Italy, but not so much in the UCL. I think if they wouldn't have bought him, they wouldn't have won the past couple of Serie A titles. So in a way, he's been a flop because he hasn't helped them achieve their goal. But also what they hadn't seen coming was the fact that other Serie A teams would become a lot stronger than they were back then. And I think that Ronaldo's helped them keep fighting for the Serie A title, but I don't think he's getting older now, and I don't think they'll be able to compete for the title this season. He did cost 105 million, which was quite a lot, but I still think that, I don't think he's been that much of a flop. He is getting older. Bihan?
I kind of agree with you. I know he's helped them to win Serie A, but I just feel like the main goal of bringing in Ronaldo for 105 million as well is just to win the Champions League, because Juventus, they've just been like not that great in the Champions League. So I just think it's not been a success, but it's not been a flop either. So let's move on to our next section, which is transfer rumors. So anybody got any rumors to talk about this week? Alex?
I personally don't have any opinions on this, but I'd like to hear other people's opinions. Barcelona really need a striker after losing Luis Suarez. So does anyone think that Depay might join them? Or does anyone else have any other strikers they think might join? Daniel?
I don't think they can afford any other strikers. I mean, you think of Barcelona, you think of, they could buy anyone a few years ago, and now they can't. They had to get rid of Suarez because they couldn't afford to pay him. They couldn't afford to keep him. And I just think that unless players join Barcelona on a free, there aren't really many players they can afford at the moment, which shouldn't really be something we're saying, but it is. And I just don't think any of the huge strikers can move to Barcelona because they can't afford them. Yeah, Vihan?
I think Barcelona, they've not got the funds for Depay, but they have got funds for a certain striker named Sergio Aguero. So, like, what do you guys think? Will this move be a success for Barcelona and for Messi personally? So because they're great friends in Argentina. So do you guys think that this could lure Messi into staying at Barcelona? Go on, Alex.
I think Sergio Aguero would help maybe try to keep Messi, but I don't think his heart is in Barcelona anymore. I mean, he's looked so happy in the past few years, and now he's just, started just his performances dropped for a while. They're back up a bit now, but still not as good as they were. He is getting older, but I think it's the club's fault more than anything. I mean, they haven't been treating him very respectfully, considering the fact that he's like the biggest player in the club's history and arguably the best player of all time. And I think Aguero, who's one of his friends, would help keep him there. Okay, I think it's time that we'll move on to our debate for this week, which is, who do you think will win the Euros? Daniel?
This may just sound like me being a bit kind of patriotic and, supporting England, but I genuinely think England are in with a chance. I'm not saying Gareth Southgate is a brilliant manager, but if you look at the quality England have now, they've got, Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling, Jadon Sancho, Phil Foden. They've got some amazing players, especially attacking, but even defensively. I mean, John Stones has picked up Ben Chilwell, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Walker. They have such good quality that they might not win it, but I think they'll go quite far this year, as long as they don't crash out to Iceland again. Yeah, Harry?
I actually think that Portugal will win the Euros. They won the Nations League in 2019 and the last Euros in 2016, and they have a very, very solid squad. They got Ronaldo, obviously. They've got some youngsters like João Felix. They got some very solid players like Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva. And altogether, their squad looks fantastic. They've got talent, and I think they can bring that towards a trophy. Vion?
I agree with you, Harry. I also think Portugal could have a chance of winning these Euros. Yeah, as you said, they've got a really good squad. Ronaldo is still firing at his age. They've got reliable players in midfield, Bruno Fernandes, William Carvalho, even though his form has dipped, he's quite a good player to have in the midfield. They've also got Bernardo Silva. So I think it will be Portugal, but I have a team to talk about here. They could be considered dark horses in this tournament, but Spain, they've won the Euro 2012, the Euro 2012. But do you think they still have that kind of quality to win it again? this Euro 2020? Alex?
I think definitely. I mean, I don't think they'll win, but they definitely have the quality to. I mean, Ronaldo's had a bit of a dip in form, but they got Bruno Fernandes, who's been amazing. I think that's a good place to end this week's podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and stick around for another video on Friday, which will be me and Harry doing our Premier League predictions. And please check out our other videos on our channel, and I hope you enjoy. Goodbye.